Just have a look at the screen for a moment, because what we're going to do, I'm going to turn myself around. You see, I'm going to bend the leg. Now, what I want to do is to still, all of a sudden, my head's going, I think, all right, bend the leg. Oh, I've got to then shorten my sideways to push that down and everything works well. We know that that's not the answer now. So if you need to have a belt, those of you who are restricted in your knee, then that's fine. You can loop a belt around the foot. Now, what's got to happen is not this to go down, because I can pull this down, and this is what we would do, because we think, oh yeah, really want to get that action. No way. We want to see, those of you with difficult knees that don't bend very well, you have an advantage today. I know you'll be very pleased about that. So you've got to see that your side waist softens and lengthens. So every time you let go of a depth, you can see my leg is going down. So I'm going to try to go back to my Shavasana and see that the abdomen is, release it. And I'm going to go again and see, can I release that area? So you're not actually pulling and closing your knee. You see that? So those of you with difficult knees, as I said, you're in a bit of an advantage, because you have to see that you lengthen and soften the side waist. So that's exactly where we're going to. Now, I know a lot of you have started this action, you're getting on with it, having a nice time, but just be careful. Yeah, just be careful that you're not pushing the knee down, you're softening the side waist to get the reaction in the length of the thigh. So it's a very key thing, and it may be that you have to repeat this several times to really get that understanding and connection. All right, okay, let's do the other side now. So, bending the left leg. I know some of you have gone ahead, but don't worry. You can do it twice each side if that's the case. So now taking your left leg, and this may be the sticky one, it may be a little bit more difficult, then don't pull your limbs. Do not pull your limbs. You've got to just hold on to the outer foot bone. Soften the belly, soften the abdomen, soften the side waist, and just let everything lengthen. Because what you want really is that area in the back spine to zip open. You've got to get it really, really nice and open. So I don't want you to overly bend your knee. I know some of you find it difficult to do that anyway, but you want to see that the action is a reaction. So the action of that leg going down is a reaction of that softness in the belly. Okay, so we will come back to this shortly, but just release the leg down for now. All right, roll into a seated position. So I'm crossing the legs now. Now, I'm going to place, don't worry those of you who've got difficulty with your knees, it's no problem at all. So, well, this would be a problem for sure, but I will show you an alternative that you can come to. So I want you to sit in this action where you've got your foot on the inside or the lower area of the leg. All right, so for those of you who find it really challenging, so if you're bending your right leg in like this, it's very difficult to get that leg bent. So what you want to do is to get a lift underneath here now. So you can still have the bent leg here, but you're going to see if you can get this action. Now, it might be that we find a little bit of support. So those of you who have difficulty with this action, you've got one leg nearly bent, fine. This leg is still quite challenging. If you've got two difficult knees, then you come into this action and you try to really get this length here. So you've got to move that groin deeply in. Now that goes also for those of you who are in this action. So it doesn't change, the action is pretty similar. You've got to see that this area, this groin, moves deeply in. So you've got to lift up out of your pelvis and see how much space you get. So some of you have been sitting nicely, some of you are just in the pose. Come to the second side now and release. So come to the second side. So some of you who are finding it difficult with your legs, don't worry about it. You can come into this action. You might find one leg works more than the other, but those of you who find that bend of the knee really challenging, then you can come into this action, but still you've got to get that movement there. So lots of lift out of the pelvis, lots and lots of lift out of the pelvis. For those of you who are not doing, you're doing the other form, the other action, this is the pose. So it's quite a challenging pose because it really does challenge the tightness around the outer hip. So this is really a key thing today, is how much can we get this movement around this outer hip region. So it doesn't come without its challenges for sure. All right. So once you've done both sides, then you can release. So do practice this week. Even those of you who find it difficult to bend your knees, then do have a go at the alternative, because it will still help very much get this weighted down and this action. All right, so just have a look now. I'm going to grab about. Those of you who find forward bending really a bit of a job, this is why we do lots of standing work, but today we're doing it slightly differently. If you find coming forward is a no-go area for you, this is a hinging forward, this is subtle action. Now you can tell where your groins are in your body, how far you can move forward. So you can move forward without using your spine. You want to use your body groins. Now if that's not happening very well, you can see here I've got a bit of a lift. I've got a blanket. You can put a blanket underneath your bottom, or you can actually use a foam pad. That would work quite well as well. So I'm using the blanket so that it's gonna, I got more room in my groins. So those of you who work with no equipment, it would be worth you having a little go with some support. Now I've got my belt here. Now I know I can reach my feet, but do a better pose with the belt. So those of you with hyperextended knees, you've got to see that you get more lift in the inner groin, and this should help you to alleviate that problem. Now when you're in this position, you want to pull and lift up out of the pelvis. So you've got to ground down into the back of the thigh. And you can see that the hinge is really such a challenging pose. A forward bending action to do well is really a job to do. So we're going to come forward a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So you want to see that you completely connect with this groin action. So opening those groins at the beginning of the class was really important. Now what we've got to do here is to see that we're getting as much backward action as we are going up. So as you draw back with those inner groins, you've got to see they go into a very deep dimension. All right, well done, and release him. All right, so what we're going to do now is to have some support like this. So we're just coming into these actions so that you get a little bit familiar with some of these forward bending actions, very strong actions, I would say. All right, so what I'm going to do is lie down first and then place the support so it's just touching the buttock like that. So when I'm here, I'm not on it, but just the lower part of the buttock, I am on it. So it gives me something to push against. Now you can see similar action again to where we were previously. So what we have to do is to bend one leg down. This leg, if you need to have a belt, don't worry, put a belt, lasso it around. And now you want to see that you deepen the action onto these foam pads. If they slide, it means to say that you're pushing away rather than grounding down. It's quite a subtle action. So you've got to see that you ground down into this support, into the support. So it's just giving you a little bit of direction, and you've got to soften this abdominal area. As we explained, all of this needs to be understood. And breathe. You want a few deeper, longer inhalations. Just be there. This is quite a strong action. You can see this. You can see where it goes to, can't you? It's got a couple of different directions here where it can go. All right, and then releasing, keeping the bottom on the support, and then we do the other side. So bend in the leg, and again, those of you who need a little bit of help, a little bit of a lasso, then we have this action here. All right, so we've got to say that you're not pushing these foam pads away, stick them right into the glute, and then say, oh, see if that really hits those parts, those body parts really strong. Now, your main thing is not this leg. Don't worry about the leg. You don't want to pull it down. This is just a matter of a connection where you just weight down into those foam pads. And you can see from the action, you've got to just let the leg go. Whew, you just got to let it go towards the floor side. Not pull it, push it. You know, you just got to let it organically happen like that. You can see that action. All right, so I know that some of you will put some welly onto this. You don't want to, you just want it to go naturally. Practice this week. It will be really useful in your forward bend work. All right, so now you've got the hang of that and you've had a little dabble with very deep groin work. This has still got to be underneath your bottom. So what we're going to do now is to see this goes underneath the bottom, and you can take this belt around your feet like that and still keep this back buttock onto the supports like that. I'm going to see that I bring the legs. Now I want to hold on to the legs. Now the main thing here is that you're softening, you're learning to soften your groin. You're using the pose to teach your body to lengthen. And what you don't want to do is to see that you're teaching your body to pull and really aggressively work. You want to see that the back of the buttock is moving towards the support. Let the elbows go out and just see, try not to control it. Just see if you can unfold the action. Some of you may get to the point where you can just hold on to the legs. You can just hold on to the legs and just let those back muscles lengthen, psoas muscle lengthen, all of this. So with this, it stops you going so far, because what normally happens is we take the bottom up with the legs, but this way you've got to keep your bottom onto the support. So it's a really valuable tool. All right, so now sit in Dandasana. Sit in Dandasana again. And so now we're sitting in Dandasana. If you can go without support, do so. But otherwise, if you think you need to sit on a foam pad or two, then do so. So what we're going to do is go back to the bent leg position. So we're coming for Janu sirsasana. Now, I try not to touch my knees in this. I like to get this outward rotation. And I want to try to keep this flank side of the leg down. So that's quite a difficult one, because what happens is that as we come into this pose, we manage to cheat. So I can take the leg like this and like that, but you can see that my flank now is facing that way, and I want this area to face towards the floor. So it's a really big ask. It's a really big ask. Okay, so what tends to happen is when we come forward, we forget about levelizing internally. So we can do a lot of gross actions on the outside, but what we want to do is come forward a little bit, See that we're getting a groin action and get this turn in action. And as we turn, this will help to rotate this leg a little bit more. And also this foot faces up towards the ceiling. And this is where we go to. So you want to see that everything is moving very deeply, and see that you use your outer foot or a belt around your outer foot to get more of this turning action. You want to see that this hip comes round. It comes round like that. And then we gradually come. You can take the hands in this position and then extend towards your leg. Now, if towards your leg is not coming, which is quite often the case, then we have to see that we come to here, this halfway. It's really good to just put your head on something because it allows you to understand this work of this thigh. So you get the idea where we're going to. So what you want to do, as long as your leg is doing that, and then you're letting that flank face backwards, that flank has got to really get that turn. It's got to really get that turn like that. This is a bit of a stiff leg for me. And then you've got to ground down. Okay, let's do the other side. So I will turn myself around so you can see. All right. So when we're here, you've got to see that you get in this rotation, this turning. Get your hand, give it a little bit of a help in hand, and get this turning. So when you're here, then you've got to see, can you pick the leg? Maybe that is a bit of a stiff side for you and a little bit more challenging depending. But what you want to do is to be sure that this outer thigh is going down. You're sensing that and feeling it. And then we've got to turn towards the leg side. So this is really quite an important action, turning towards the leg. And then again, same thing. You've got to just wait for a few moments. Don't go into it yet. Wait for a few moments and get this turning action. Then when we come forward, we're coming forward and holding. Holding. Getting this turning action. Okay, so you get the idea. You've got to get all of that rotation, really strong action, and then see if you can come to the forward action. See if you can come to that forward part. So coming forward, having your arms in that cross position, or you can hold onto a belt. You know how to change the action, so we can hold this way, like this if there's a problem. It's not a big issue. Whatever you can do, wherever you can get to is really key here. We have to just keep that honesty in our practice. All right, so keep that action nicely. Keep that understanding. And then releasing. So it's a very, very strong action. All right, so come back to Dandasana. Have your belt and place it around. And again, legs together, pull up the kneecaps and thighs. Wait for a moment. See how much you can connect, moving the sides of the pubic plate deeply within. Deeply within. Go and see how much you can lift up. How much can you get that lift? Okay, so now we understand a little bit more about the groin work. We're going to see if we can now come into this page for action. So when we're here, we've got to see that we get this really nice lifting action. Really nice lifting action. Now, if this isn't coming, then of course, by all means, use the belt. So you can come into this action with the belt. All right, getting this connection. or getting this connection. Get that twist in action. So for some of you, when you come into this, you might want to put a couple of foam pads. You can put your hand here, that's fine if that's enough. Use the belt if you need to. If you can put your hand onto your outer foot bone, fine. I'm going to put that closer, and now see, can you get that turn? You want to see how much can you turn and lift up towards the ceiling. Strong action, isn't it? So see how much you can lift up. Yeah, it's challenging. Okay, good. And now come and do the other side. So you're going to put that just a little bit to the side there, and then we catch, and then we see, can you get that turning action? Can you get that turning action? And lifting up. Okay, so have a go with that, play with that. Have several attempts, do it this week.